Hi there. Decided to do a quick rundown of the next generation hardware and all the different specs behind them. There are some differences between a lot of the versions. There are basically what's going on is that in the November timeframe, there's going to be four different systems that are going to be launching. We have the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition, which doesn't have a media drive or an ultra Blu-ray drive. There's also the Xbox Series X, which is the highest out of all of them, and the Xbox Series S, which is kind of for a different demographic. Once we go down through the spec list, we could determine what that difference is. So yeah, let's basically go over this. I have a spreadsheet and I've been trying to update it as soon as updates come. So like every time there's a press conference or like a blog post by an official person or representative of either the PlayStation side or Xbox side, I try to update this sheet, as well as developers. So game developers have been spending time they're trying to hit the launch date marks. So if they announce that they're going to be hitting that window, I put it into this spreadsheet. So yeah, let's just go down it. Basically, like I said before, four different SKUs for new next generation hardware. The base PlayStation 5, it's not like really the base, but the ultimate PlayStation 5 or the normal PlayStation 5 is starting at $499 here in North America. The digital edition without the Blu-ray drive is $399. The Xbox Series X is $499 as well, and the Series S is going to run at $299. Both versions of the PlayStation 5 do not have any payment plans whatsoever. Xbox with Microsoft, they do have the All Access program, which started last generation with the One S and the One X. So for the Series X and the Series S, Xbox All Access includes the console itself and 24 months of Game Pass Ultimate. The Series X will cost $34.99 for 24 months, and the Series S will cost $24.99 for 24 months. And if you haven't had Game Pass Ultimate, it's amazing. It basically encompasses a lot of different services into one, which will be detailed in the spreadsheet later on. So I won't go over that right now, but just in a second. The release date for the PlayStation 5 is officially November 12th, 2020, and the Xbox Series X and Series S release on November 10th, 2 days earlier. The launch games for the PlayStation 5. So we have Astro's Playroom, which comes with every single PlayStation 5, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Demon's Souls, Destruction All-Stars, Destiny 2 Beyond Light, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Dirt 5, Fortnite, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy A Big Adventure, Observer System Redo, Godfall, Ribbit's Big Adventure, and Maneater, which was just announced today. For the Xbox Series X side, or the Series X and S side, Assassin's Creed Valhalla will also be there, Destiny 2 Beyond Light, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Dirt 5, Fortnite, Gears 5, Gears Tactics, Tetris Effect Connected, which is basically a port or like an upgraded version or remaster of Tetris Effect from the PlayStation 4. Watch Dogs Legion, Yakuza, Like a Dragon, The Falconeer, Observer System Redo, and Maneater. The launch window games. So these are games that were either launching like a couple days before, not exactly on target date, but within a couple of weeks and maybe a couple months afterwards. That's the kind of the launch window of the system. So for the PlayStation side, we have Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Outriders, Bugsnax, Cyberpunk 2077, Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart, Madden NFL 21, NBA 2K1, Control Ultimate Edition, and Marvel's Avengers. For the Xbox side, we have Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Cyberpunk 2077, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, Crossfire X, Outriders, Dragon Quest XI S, The Ascent, Forza Horizon 4, FIFA 21, Marvel's Avengers, Madden NFL 21, NBA 2K1, NBA 2K21, Control Ultimate Edition, and Bright Memory, which was just announced today too. Bright Memory Infinite was the sequel to this game, which was announced back during Xbox's showcase back in May. Notable cross-gen games. So cross-gen is kind of a little it's kind of weird. People kind of don't like it because when it comes to first-party games, they want their games not limited by the older version hardware. They want the newest version to base their software on or their game on, so it doesn't get held back. So and most of the time, like, everyone was kind of like against that, but it makes sense as a financial move because not a lot of people are going to have PlayStation 5s and Xboxes, the next generation Xboxes. The install base is much lower. Like, there are going to be 200 million PlayStation 4s, and if you miss out on the sales that you would normally get from a cross-gen title that's not cross-gen, like, that's a lot of sales that could generate for new games. So anyway, notable cross-gen games for PlayStation 5 are the Spider-Man Miles Morales game, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, and Sackboy Big Adventure. There's also a note on the PlayStation's website where it says that the PlayStation 5 can let players upgrade their disc and or digital PlayStation 4 games to PlayStation 5 for additional amount or no cost. It is really up to the developer, I believe, or the publisher that is in control of that game for third parties. For first parties, it's kind of hit or miss. I think Sony is willing to let go of certain ones. But if there's like the hits like God of War or Last of Us, but some not smaller studios, but smaller games that didn't hit like a financial goal, like, they might not let them go. Like Days Gone is a good example for a first party game that probably didn't hit the sales as hard as it should have. For the Xbox side, cross-gen games that are confirmed right now are only Halo Infinite. Smart delivery games as well are on there, but it's kind of different for third-party smart delivery games because they already kind of develop their games knowing that there's going to be different hardware and different levels of technology that are going to be running their games. So like for PC, for instance, like there's tons of specs and there's tons of compatible devices out there, but they're not at the same power level. So like you might have like a person with a GTX 1050 all the way to like a RTX 3080 that you have to develop for. So they already kind of do that stuff. Okay, so here comes down to like raw hardware specs now. So the most important part is out of the way, which are the games. So CPU wise, all hardware is basically running on like a next generation AMD Ryzen platform. So the PlayStation 5 is running an x86 64-bit AMD Ryzen Zen 2 processor with 8 cores up to 3.5 gigahertz. The Xbox Series X is running a custom AMD Ryzen Zen 2 8 cores at 3.8 gigahertz with 3.6 gigahertz with SMT. SMT is simultaneous multi-threading, so it runs multiple cores at the same time doing different tasks. So it's very efficient in how it runs this. The Series S also kind of has the same technology, but it's clocked down. It's at 8 cores also, but it's only running at 3.6 gigahertz and 3.4 gigahertz with SMT. The GPU, so important too. So the PlayStation 5 runs an AMD Radeon RDNA 2 with 36 compute units up to 2.23 gigahertz clock. And same thing with the digital edition. The Series X has a custom AMD Radeon RDNA 2 with 52 compute units at 1.825 gigahertz. The lesser Series S only has a 20 compute unit with 1.565 gigahertz. Teraflops. So this is pretty much like the raw output of the system. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll run very good games, or doesn't necessarily mean it'll run the best games, but it'll run them pretty quick if you go through a raw teraflop number. Both PlayStation 5s run at 2.3 teraflops. The Series X runs at 12, and the Series S only runs at 4. The reason being is because it's meant for a different target resolution, target audience, pretty much. The target frames per second. So all the systems are really trying to get for a sort of 60 frames per second environment with the capability of running 120 frames per second. The caveat to that is that you need to have a game that's being developed for 120 frames, and you need a display that can run at 120 frames per second. Not a lot of the older 4K TVs do this. A lot of the newer generation ones do, like the LG C9s and above. But older TVs that are like LCDs, plasmas, some older OLEDs, they don't run at 120 frames. A lot of monitors do. And to me, frames per second is a little bit more important than raw resolution, because the motion is important for a lot of competitive games, like fighting games, and which are frame dependent. Same thing with first person shooters, like something like Counter-Strike, like CS GO. Frames are very, very important in the environment. So they're looking for something that has the highest frame rate as possible. I wouldn't necessarily think that they would be gaming on a console, but I mean, to each his own. All right. So anyway, target resolution for three of the four systems is 4K, which is a 2160p equivalent. The two PlayStation 5s are 8K capable, and the Xbox Series X is also 8K capable with HDR. That's what they're stating on their website. So here's a big difference between the Series S and everyone else that's releasing this holiday season. It's targeted only at 1440p, with 4K support through like the playback, like media playback and upscaling. So the reason why the Xbox Series S is so much cheaper, I mean, it's the lowest price SKU out of all of them, but it only runs at 1440p. Not a lot of people actually can tell the difference between a 1080p signal and a 4K signal running on a 4K TV. My wife cannot tell a difference between what is 4K and what is 1080p running on our 4K OLED. And it's kind of weird, but they don't care. A lot of the people that buy this stuff as a hobby, as like a getaway, they don't really care about these raw hard specs. And that's why consoles are so important and popular, is because like a lot of people don't care about system configuration, system requirements, the complications that come with running a PC. And that's why having an Xbox or PlayStation 5 is really nice, because you don't have to do anything. You just plug and play. And I think that's what the Xbox Series S is meant for. The rays. So all systems will be able to trace the rays or have ray tracing capabilities. The RAM on both PlayStation 5s is 16 gigabytes. It's the GDDR 16, running at 448 gigabytes per second. It's hella fast. The Xbox Series X also has 16 gigabytes of RAM, but it kind of configures them differently. So 10 gigabytes of the RAM cluster runs at a 560 gigabyte per second speed, while the other 6 are only running at 336 gigabytes per second. I believe that one is more reserved for like the system, like UI and everything. I think that's why they did that, or maybe like streaming in the background while the rest of the RAM is utilized somewhere else. The Series S only has 10 gigabytes of RAM, and 8 of them only run at 224 gigabytes per second, and 2 gigabytes only run at 56 gigabytes per second. So that's significantly low. That's very low compared to the other 3. The audio in the PlayStation 5. So audio is developed with the Tempest 3D audio tech. Mark Cerny did a huge presentation on this, which was like, whoo, over the heads of many, including me. It's very technical. I understood that is very next gen and capable, but I don't know exactly how that will pan out. The Xbox Series X and the Series S, they're currently running with a Project Acoustics with spatial audio developed audio plan. It's weird. I don't know what they didn't really release too much information on that type of thing. The IO. So this is a big delta between the two systems. So the PlayStation 5 has an input-output between the hard drive SSD to the main board of 5.5 gigabytes raw and 9 gigabytes uncompressed. which is huge. The Xbox Series X only has 2.4 gigabytes per second raw and 4.8 gigabytes per second compressed. And same thing with the Series S. So that's like a huge, we'll see how that runs in real time, but I mean, that essentially changes how you develop certain types of games. My Extreme PC that I have in the other room, like that one runs off of an NVMe drive, .2 drive, and it's fast as hell, but I don't think it can reach that fast right now. Maybe like Gen 4's systems can do that. The internal storage of the PlayStation 5 is a weird number. It's 825 gigabytes on SSD, and it's a custom one. The Series X has a 1 terabyte NVMe, and the Series S only has a 512 gigabyte NVMe. External, so expandability. The PlayStation 5 can be upgraded with an approved NVMe SSD, and they could utilize external hard drives through the USB port. However, those could only be used to install PlayStation 4 games. You can't run a PlayStation 5 game off of the external HD hard drive. It has to be installed either onto a newer approved NVMe or the internal built-in NVMe inside of the PlayStation 5. For the Xbox Series X, there is going to be a very expensive proprietary 1 terabyte expansion card made by Seagate, and at the release today, the cost is $220. It's crazy. But you could also use external hard drives through the USB port, and I don't think there's any restriction on that as long as you have something that runs that high. I know for a fact that you could download, like if you download current games onto your 1X or your 1S for like say Game Pass onto a big hard drive, you could move that hard drive directly onto the newer hardware, the Series X or the Series S, and it'll run it. Like the games will know they're on there, so you don't have to re-download any of those games. Okay, the media drive, like we said earlier, so the PlayStation 5 has an Ultra HD Blu-ray player. The digital edition does not. The Series X also has an Ultra HD Blu-ray player. The Series S does not. Okay, the ports. So there are some screenshots that were leaked for the PlayStation 5. So they have one USB Type A, high-speed USB port, and then they have another USB port, but it's a super speed port. Those are normally labeled red. They're normally like a red, like the port is a red color. And there are 2 USB Type Cs. For the Xbox Series X, there are only 3 USB Type A super speeds. So there's no Type C ports on it whatsoever, which is weird because their new controller has a USB Type C connection on it, which is, I don't know, baffling. Networking wise, so the PlayStation 5 has gigabit Ethernet and Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.1 also. The Series X has gigabit Ethernet, but only Wi-Fi 5. Which is also very confusing. You would think the strongest or the most expensive or the most capable and powerful box would have the most upgraded specs, but that one kind of fails it. But both Xboxes have the Xbox Wireless Radio Protocol, which is mainly for the controllers and the accessories that they have. The controller is brand spanking new for the PlayStation 5. It is the DualSense controller. For the Xboxes, it is the new Xbox wireless controller, which is practically the same. Nothing really has changed. The DualSense controller has haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, a built-in microphone. It's pretty similar to the DualShock 4, 3.5 millimeter headset jack, internal rechargeable battery, 6-axis motion control, touchpad. The create button is new, and as well as the USB-C port is also new. For the new wireless Xbox controller, so Xbox implemented a new system called the dynamic latency input system, which runs from the game all the way to the controller in your fingertips to basically eliminate as much latency as possible. There is a share button now onto that controller with USB-C, also new. The rest of the stuff is pretty standard for the controller. It has replaceable AA battery power, or you could buy charge pack, which is like $25, which can recharge which you could recharge that battery. 3.5 millimeter headset jack also included. It is compatible. So here's the thing: the compatibility for an Xbox controller already is insane, but this one is compatible with Series X, Series S, also One X and One S last generation systems, Mac OS 10, Windows 10, Android, and iOS, so Apple iOS as well. So you could use that thing for every freaking device in your house, practically. Okay, so weight. They're pretty similar. So the PlayStation 5 is 9.9 pounds. The digital edition is only 8.6 pounds. The Series X is 9.8 pounds. And the Series S is only 4.25 pounds. It's really small. By the dimensions here, the PlayStation 5 is actually really big. It runs at it runs the size of 39 by 9.2 by 26 centimeters, which is really tall. Like, it's really, there's some screenshots out there I'm pretty sure you've seen. The Xbox Series X, on the other hand, is only 30 centimeters practically by 15 by 15, a pretty small box. I mean, relatively. It's chunky, but it's not like the weird dimensions of the PlayStation 5. It's really big, and it's probably just for heating. That's all. That's really what it should be about. If that thing is that big and is super loud, I'm gonna be pretty mad about the whole thing. The digital edition of the PlayStation 5, I mean, it's a little slimmer, but not by much. The Series S, however, is super diminutive. It's 27.5 centimeters by 6.5 centimeters by 15.1 centimeter. So it's tiny. Not like pocketable tiny, but it'll fit. It's like half the size of PlayStation 4 base console. It's crazy. Let's see, extras that that all of the systems run. So these are like extras that I couldn't really quantify or categorize somewhere, so I just kind of lumped them in here. PlayStation 5 has a variable rate for the HDMI port. It also has cloud gaming functionality somehow, which was explained in the Mark Cerny interview, but he didn't really elaborate on which games would take advantage of that. Basically what it is that they'll run a cloud stack somewhere, and it'll help with the compute of the graphics and or AI or whatever the developers choose to run a game. Kind of similar to what Crackdown was trying to do. Crackdown 3 was trying to do before it got like really, really reduced in scope. It also has a configurable game installation option and streamable gameplay, which the current systems definitely do have. The Xbox Series X and Series S have that auto low latency mode, which tries to reduce latency. It also has variable rates for the HDMI display. It supports AMD FreeSync, which is kind of cool. Auto HDR for older games, so it will automatically convert older games like video output signal and turn it into an interpretable HDR signal for TVs that are capable of running it. It also has quicker zoom and direct machine learning within the system, intelligent delivery, and streamable gameplay. Let's see here. So for the PlayStation, for VR, so no announcements for VR for the Xbox side. I'm pretty sure all other stuff got canceled after a few years, but PlayStation 5 will support old PlayStation VR. And I did find a note that on their website it said that the PlayStation 5, in order to run the PlayStation VR, will require a PlayStation camera adapter, no purchase necessary. So you'll have to like run you have to do a voucher program or something like that, which they will send you an attachment so you could utilize your PlayStation VR with your PlayStation 5. Okay, backwards compatibility. So the head of PlayStation, he said that what's his name, Ryan, he said that 99% of the PlayStation 4 library is compatible with the PlayStation 5. So that number kept increasing as they announced the console. And so I calculated that out, and that came out to about 2,839 titles compatible with the PlayStation 5. For the Xbox, is a little bit more. It's kind of a lot more actually, because the Xbox they're really focusing with the Series X and Series S on backwards compatibility and legacy kind of titles and stuff like that. So it can run all of the Xbox One games right now. So that stands at 2,532 titles. The backwards program also included all the Xbox 360 titles, which is 1,577, and OG Xbox games, 41 of them. And specifically, Xbox One X enhanced title support, which were special features that if you had an Xbox One would be automatically implemented into those games. So like say Red Dead Redemption didn't have HDR, was it in 4K? Xbox One X players that had that disc could put it in their One X and it'll automatically get those upgrades for free. So there were 246 of them. However, the Xbox pretty much killed the Kinect. So there's no Kinect support whatever on this thing. They don't want to do anything with that albatross around their neck. They don't want to relate anything. The Series S a little bit different. Because it doesn't support any of those Xbox One X enhanced titles. It can't because it is a 1440p system, and for it to run any 4K games would be absurd because it's not meant to support that. So it'll run the base Xbox One S versions of the backwards compatible ecosystem, if that makes any sense. It's already confusing as is. Okay, so backwards compatibility hardware wise. For the PlayStation 5, all official licensed headsets, racing wheels, arcade sticks, flight sticks, PlayStation Camera, PlayStation VR, PlayStation Move, and DualShock 4 controllers are compatible with PlayStation 5. The DualShock 4s, however, they can only be used for PlayStation 4 games specifically. They can't run PlayStation 5 games. And for the Xbox Series X, all Xbox One accessories and peripherals, except for the Kinect, are compatible. Xbox, that includes the Xbox adaptive controller for people with disabilities, which is really cool. The Elite series, the Elite 1 and the Elite 2, which is their high-end controller series. The Hybrid Duke, which is the big-ass one, the OG design, and the Custom Design Lab controllers as well. Okay, so here's a really important but optional kind of thing that both PlayStation and Xbox run for their newer systems. Okay, so we already know about subscription services and online game services. Those are great, but those are also optional. Not everyone has the ability to pay all of this, and not everyone necessarily needs all of them at a given time. So we're talking about right now PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus, and Xbox Live and Game Pass. So those are the equivalents, right? We're talking about here. So for game subscriptions for Sony, we're talking about PlayStation Now. You could buy into their ecosystem at $10 per month, or for a year for $60 a year. But it's just a subscription service. It's like Netflix. That's all it is. It has 800 games in its library, more than 800 games, a little bit more. And 300 of those games you're able to download them straight to your hard drive on your system and play them directly from there. You don't have to do a cloud service kind of thing, which sucks because not everyone has good internet. So it's harder for them to play with cloud gaming services. So it's nice to have an option to download these games directly onto the PlayStation 5. The Xbox has Game Pass Ultimate, which is the bee's knees. It is the ultimate value in gaming right now, because it includes Xbox Live Gold, which is the way to play online on Xbox Live or on Xbox consoles. It also has Game Pass PC, Game Pass for console. EA Play has just been announced to be included, as well as Project xCloud, all included into the Xbox Ultimate Bundle. And it is an insane value. So you get 250 plus games, all first-party title games from Microsoft, including the newly acquired Bethesda deal, is ZeniMax deal. It's insane that like Doom and everything will come day of to Game Pass. and you could download them all straight to your system. You don't need to have be forced into cloud streaming. You have the option to cloud stream with xCloud if you want to, but you're not forced to do it. But if you don't want the ultimate pass, like say you don't care about having your Game Pass for PC, you don't care about like xCloud at all, there is a subscription service for a monthly fee for $10. And remember, these are all optional. You could still buy your games like normal. You'll be fine. And same thing with the Series S. So for the next online service, so the PlayStation, to kind of counter what Xbox is providing, you have the PlayStation Plus service. Included in the PlayStation Plus service is the new PlayStation 5 Plus collection. So once you're a subscriber to PlayStation Plus, you're immediately granted access to these following titles, including titles that are free on a monthly basis by PlayStation Plus, which is awesome. Like, they have really good games on there. But the PlayStation Plus collection games include Battlefield 1, Batman Arkham Knight, Bloodborne, Days Gone, Detroit Become Human, Fallout 4, Final Fantasy 15, God of War 2018, Infamous Second Son, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us Part 1, Monster Hunter World, Mortal Kombat 10, Persona 5, Ratchet & Clank, Resident Evil 7, Uncharted 4, and Until Dawn. Amazing. That's an amazing lineup to play. They are, this generation's games, but you get to play them onto the PlayStation 5 immediately. So, great games. God of War alone and Bloodborne alone, like, those are incredible titles to have. Xbox does not have any of that kind of thing right now. Nor would they have to. They don't really need it. Game Pass alone is a good jumping in point. There is to note is that PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus are two separate SKUs, so you have to pay separately for these. So if you want PlayStation Now, $60 a year. And for PlayStation access to the online service and that Plus collection, $60 a year. So that's $120 for the full entire year. The Xbox Game Pass Ultimate system is a little bit more, or is it 120? And then so if you pay 15 times 12, so the Game Pass Ultimate system is $180 a year. So anyway, that's basically it. The last category is just memes on what these things look like. Like, the PlayStation 5 looks like a router, and the Xbox Series X looks like a fridge, and the Series S looks like a speaker box. That's all it really is. And these notes were just, basically, I explained it already, and where I took certain notes from, and they're all indicated into the spreadsheet themselves. But yeah, that's a close look at the differences, the pluses, the pros and cons maybe to you individually of each one of the systems, and where you might be at this coming holiday season if you could find them. Like, both gaming companies are going after totally different demographics. The Series S is definitely for like the everyman's kind of game, and they totally nailed the price on that. $25 a month is completely acceptable for a lot of families out there. And say you do, like, the only system you really wanted was the PlayStation 5 to begin with. You're like, yeah, I'm not interested in Xbox whatsoever. The PlayStation 5 was great. It's going to be an awesome system. It will probably outsell all the Series X and Series S's combined at the time. But it is huge value that you could get a PlayStation 5 and spend extra $25 a month and also have an Xbox Series S, or $34 a month and also have an Xbox Series X and have all the games. I don't know if you have enough time to play all these games, but the accessibility for all of them is huge. So anyway, that was my take, and that's my breakdown of the next generation system.